artists, here is Miss Dolores. One of the things I want to do in these videos is to discuss art materials and show you the basic steps you can follow when you use them. Today I want to talk about watercolor. When artists paint, they can use different kind of paints. Oil paint, acrylic paint, tempera, watercolor. I am a big fan of watercolor. Watercolor comes in different forms. In tubes, these ones are very creamy. The colors can be really intense, but some of them are very expensive. They are used mostly by professional artists. There are liquid watercolors. Some of them are so nice. A little difficult to manage, but a lot of fun. If you have a chance to use them, do it. And then there are these sets of dry watercolors. I bet you have seen them and used them before. Some of them are pretty cheap and colors are good. And they are easy to work with. And that's why they are so popular, and they are the ones I am going to use. Watercolor uses, water. In fact, I like to say that one of the most important things about watercolor is to learn how to manage the water. That is, to know how much water to add, where to add it, and when to add it. Too much information? Okay, let's give it a try. So this is my usual setting when I work with this kind of watercolor. I use Q-tips quite a lot. If you can get some, great. My water container, I like to use one recycled plastic container. It has a big base, so it won't flip that easily. And I don't put too much water in it, because if it does, I don't have that much cleaning to do. If I need more water or the water gets dirty, I can change it. Paper. When we paint on paper, we need a thick paper. A regular paper is not going to work that well. It will get soggy and fall apart, especially if we are using watercolor, especially if we are adding a lot of water, like I do. There are papers for watercolor. They are thick and very absorbent. That means they can take the water like a sponge, and they are not going to get soggy or fall apart. If you don't have watercolor paper, you can use a thick paper or even a cardboard may work. I also have an old rack. I start by dropping some water in my colors to get them wet and soft. The paper is dry. I create the outlines of a shape and I add water. I clean my brush with my rag and I pretty much repeat the steps. Now I want to add a different color to my yellow shape. The yellow is still wet. And here comes the beauty of watercolor. The colors travel through the water and blend into each other. I can remove some water with my Q-tip. I can use the rag too. My shapes are still wet and I keep adding water or color to see what happens. The color is saturated, pure, more intense the less water I add, and it gets lighter, more transparent when I add water. The shapes are wet and every color I add expands, travels through the water. So much fun. If I don't want a color to expand so much, I need to dry quickly the area around it as well as possible. Let me show you this experiment. The shape on the right is dry. The one on the left I just did and is still wet. I add to both of them yellow. First of all, in both shapes, the yellow looks orange because it is quite transparent and you see through the violet. However, on the paper that is still wet, the yellow blends, expands, it loses its edge. The one that is dry, the new shape I add, keeps its shape, its precise outline. Now that both shapes are dry, you can clearly see the difference. On the left one, the yellow continued to expand and blend into the big shape. On this one, there is a precise edge. The yellow stayed where I placed it. It did not expand because everything around was dry. Now you need to figure out when you prefer the colors to merge, to lose their shape, and when you want to keep their shape. These are just the basics of watercolor. There is so much to consider, but it's a good start. Soon I am going to make new videos where I will show you other things you can do with watercolors. Artists use them very differently, and you have to find your own style. Remember, I am an artist.